But to put it all into context, I work with Hawaii Wildlife Fund. We're a very small nonprofit organization dedicated to native wildlife. So how we got involved in the plastics problem is because we have spent 16 years on this island pulling mass amounts of marine debris, which is primarily plastic, about 95% of which is plastic, so we're calling it plastic pollution now, from our shoreline. So 282 tons since 2003, so that doesn't compare to the amount of plastics that are being produced and consumed on island daily, but it's a fair amount of waste that's coming in from around the Pacific Basin, coming in from local and foreign sources. But this year alone, for example, that's over 50,000 pounds of primarily plastic pollution, about half of which are these derelict fishing net and line bundles by weight, and then the other half of which are mixed plastic pollution. We have hosted 64 cleanups this year, so that's about 800 pounds per cleanup event. This is primarily done with volunteers, residents, and visitors. But in combination and collaboration with our partners with Surfrider Foundation on Kauai, as well as our teams on Maui, we're taking that 50,000 pounds, so 25 tons this year alone, combined with what Hawaii's picking up, which is over 25 tons, add on our Hawaii Wildlife Fund team on Maui, it's a whole lot of plastic. And now with the change, it was always challenging to recycle plastic, and now with the changing of our global market and just potentials on island, it's becoming harder. And so again, I'm not a salesperson, but I wanted to introduce and unveil this buy block. So this is one potential solution for disposal of some of our non-recyclable plastics and marine debris. So this was created with the green right here are derelict fishing nets from Kauai and mixed waste that wasn't recyclable at the ByFusion facility in Dunedin, New Zealand. And so this is a small private company. It was in the last 10 years bought out by a sibling team who are from the States, so it's now a US-owned company. They also have a facility in LA. What excites me about this, and mahalo Christine for talking before me, we don't want to get into a situation where we need to consume more and more plastic. So ideally, if this business model works for the ByFusion company or our island, like ideally they'll be out of a job in several decades. But as we know, we've been mass producing and consuming plastic since the 1950s. So even if we cut it off and move forward with single-use plastics, phase out, ban statewide, we're still going to have an awful lot of waste. We're still going to have tons and tons washing up along our shorelines. So this, to me, although my father named Robin hates the phrase kills two birds with one stone, it does. It's a win-win because we have a disposal issue right now. We are throwing the vast amount of our mixed plastic waste that isn't derelict fishing nets away. So they're just going into landfill because recycling is challenging and we don't have a way to ship containers to Trenton, New Jersey for mixed recycling to TerraCycle. So this is something that I think could work, be a creative solution. And the other win is you can replace concrete bricks and blocks. So what you can't tell, this is pretty heavy. This is 10 kilograms, so it's 22 pounds. And it's just one potential product they call Buy Block of this company. But you're not using cement. So cement and concrete in general is also a really big culprit in carbon emissions, and we're talking about climate change. And so it's using steam to clean this mixed plastic. They shred everything into pieces. So I guess in terms of marine debris, we can put everything in here except for our buoys. They're really hard to chop. And then compression. So when things are a little bit softer, it's not melting it, but it's using compression to form it into blocks or whatever the county or some private industry on this island would like to create. And you can use these. You can make buildings, you can make retaining walls, we can use these to make small houses, like to deal with some of our homeless population, make tiny houses, make storage sheds, as long as you somehow seal it from exposure, too much exposure to UV. So let me see if I got I got everything. the company right now, so what I handed out was an article that was published. Our executive director, Hannah Bernard, and I flew over to Kauai to see the unveiling and the blessing of the first ever permanent building made out of these buy blocks at the end of July. So there was an athletic pavilion installed at Island School just outside of Lihue. And that was the first one. They, before that, had made like a mobile lifeguard station stand that they were using in Southern California. We are going to hopefully be installing some of these in a little wall at the Discovery Museum in Maui as well. But I think the potential application of this to our island, if there was a space that this could be made, the company wants to have facilities kind of built to like an island scale. They are being approached by multiple different states, but they don't have another facility yet. They've been out there. The current owner and CEO came out for the blessing. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a business person. I'm a marine biologist. So for those of you in the room who have connections to contractors unions or public works and other, if you have there's a lot of creativity in this room. I think if we put our minds together, this could be a potential solution. Not the only solution, because number one thing we need to do, agreeing with Christine and earlier what Jennifer was saying, we really, really need to reduce. But even as we reduce, there's still going to be, what are we talking? If Christine was saying we can get it to 10 tons a day, that's great. So, okay, 10 tons a day on island, plus what we're pulling from the shores near South Point, we could really do something with this. So, anyway.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Did you say permanent building or permitted building?
Permanent.
Okay.
It was the first permanent, and it was permitted. So they went, the mayor was there, they're endorsing it. So our friends and allies with Surfrider Kauai are really pushing hard to get a facility in Lihue or something. And I was like, no, Hawaii Island, we need this here. But I think we could all work together and build like island scale facilities where these could be used and we can build useful things and stop bringing in concrete. There is a gentleman in West Hawaii who is interested, maybe has the more entrepreneurial arm and has some creative ideas with this. So I just wanted to, I guess I am pitching it, but I don't feel like a salesperson. I'm not connected to the company, but it's distressing to pour tons and tons of this plastic waste into our landfills. I mean, Bill knows about it because he knows because we need to get waivers, tipping waivers. We're talking about the commercial permits that are needed to dispose of waste washing up on our shores every time we utilize those transfer stations as a business, as a nonprofit business, pulling trash off the beach. So,
this seems brilliant to me. John and I were talking before the meeting about how to make plastic a valuable material, something that can be created from it. And I've been hearing about not these particular blocks, but there's a company in Colombia that has been basically doing the same thing. And I think it's sort of like killing two birds with one stone. I don't really like that phrase either, but taking something that's basically free, washing up on our shores, and actually making something out of it, in a place where homelessness is a problem, affordable housing is a problem, affordable building materials is a problem. All the building materials we use here, we're shipping in from elsewhere. Cement is a very unsustainable product. So I guess the main question that comes to my mind is the permitting issue, is how to, if it's already, it sounds like it's kind of already in the works.
I think they had to go through it to be in the works in Kauai. I mean, it hasn't, ideally you don't have to change any sort of building codes to do something like this. And there is the product spec sheet. So I think it's going to be different everywhere. I talked about this, just one slide in like a 50-slide PowerPoint slide to the South Hilo Rotary Club, and they got really excited about it. And Auntie Charlene wants, we want to do something with the waste, but not to a point. We want to see the waste as a resource because and then also we want to be mindful about our consumption of it and not continue to use more and more of it. I will say there was some mention about a group in Puna doing the Puna Precious Plastics, and there are some other innovative ideas with it. There's nothing super fancy about this technology. I mean, they have figured out a way to steam clean it and compress it into blocks, chop it up, compress it into blocks. But it is not being melted, and that's the thing. And that's one of my biggest gripes with incineration. It's like when you take plastic pollution and turn it into air pollution and you're creating furans and dioxins. When you melt plastic, that's really gnarly toxic stuff. We do not want to be responsible for creating more toxic waste. And so there is no additives in this. Even with recycling, there's a bunch of chemicals that are added into the plastics to create things, to create new plastic products. So to me, it seems like it's a really innovative step in the right direction. So I think that we should explore that. So for people who want more information, or who want to be on this team or trying to bring a facility like this to the island,